Hello, my name is Rodney Cox, and I'd just like to take you through the basics of some graph changes that we've made. Many of you have been asking the question, what is this new strengths chart? Well, what we want you to understand is that we basically have changed just a few terms, and we have moved the graphs to a more visual representation of what we're measuring. The core style is now called the strengths chart, and what we used to call the adapted style is now what we call the strengths movement chart. So we have natural strengths that we bring, and we have strengths movement who we think we need to be in order to succeed. Traditionally, the Ministry Insights profiles have come in 5 different versions. We have the Leading from Your Strengths version, Marriage Insights version, Parenting Insights version, Teen version, and Position Insights. Today I'm going to be reviewing the difference between the graphs that are in these profiles. The Leading from Your Strengths profile has gone through a graphical change. The report looks a little different, a little cleaner, a more graphically aesthetic, and the graph page has changed to a horizontal graph, which is what I want to share with you. So, Leading from Your Strengths now has a graph that looks something like this, and I'm going to take you through this graph and help you understand exactly how to read it. In the past, we've always had graphs that were vertical in nature. This is what we call a horizontal graph. So all of our other profiles, Marriage Insights, Parenting Insights, Teen Insights, and Position Insights, still have this old style graph. Now we are moving to the new style graph. We've been testing for the last 18 months. We've done some minor tweaks, and all of our graphs will be moving to the new version. Before it's over with, it just takes a process. But there's a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, so I want to make sure that you understand how these graphs are still read and how easy it really is to do. So, the original graph and the graph that is still in the majority of our assessments still use what we call the core style. We always train that where you had high strengths or you had low strengths, or you were situational. So no matter where you plotted on the graph, you bring a natural God-given strength, either a high strength or low strength. The problem is that no matter how hard we train and no matter how many times we say a low strength is something good, we're used to seeing a graph read like this, and anything low means we don't have something. So how can that be a strength? So what we've done is literally created this strengths chart. It is now part of the Leading from Your Strengths profile. Once again, all profiles will move to this. And we have simply turned this graph on its side. So let's actually look at what it would look like if we turn this graph on its side. We flip it 90 degrees. Feel free to do that in your workshops if you're still using the older graphs or you're using the profile other than the Leading from Your Strengths. You can then slide it over, expand it, and voila, it is the exact same graph. The difference is that we have simply neutralized the graph. The 50 percentile line now becomes the neutral point or the 0 on the scale, and instead of reading a 0 to 100% scale across the left hand side, we now across the top of the scale measure from 0 intensity to the right side of the scale 1 through 10. So the higher the number, the more intense that behavior is in the continuum which we're measuring. And from the 0 to the left side of the scale, both equally weighted, and the further that you move to the left side of the scale, the more representative this side of the scale would be to your strengths. So now, what strength do you bring when it comes to problem solving? More of a reflective strength or more of an aggressive strength? Before, people would label each other lions, otters, golden retrievers, and beavers. As fun as that is, and it's a great hook, we got to move deeper than that. It's deeper than lion, otter, golden retriever, beaver, because lion actually measures how we problem solve. Some of us are aggressive, some reflective, both bring a natural strength. When it comes to processing information, some optimistic, some realistic, both strengths, and we need them both. Just what side of the continuum are you on? And then when it comes to managing change, predictable or dynamic. When it comes to facing risk, structured or pioneering. So we've always taught these 8 strength sets, and we've always taught these 4 continuums, but we've never spelled it out on the original graph. Now we're spelling it out. We're moving away from low and high to right and left, and numeric values of your strength. Very simple to read. We have had rave reviews about this. It's so much clearer for people to read. We do have a few barriers of our level 1, level 2 folks that are out training this material because they're so used to the old model. But once again, we are moving in that direction. It's much cleaner, and it doesn't pigeonhole people. That's the truth. So the second thing we should talk about is adapted style versus strengths movement. In the old model, or once again in the majority of our profiles, we still, on page 17, show you 2 graphs. Who are you, your core style, versus who you think you need to be, your adapted style. And in the past, what you had to do is literally overlay those graphs, or visually overlay those graphs anyway, and take a look at the distance between any given points. So in this particular graph, we have 2 points that are moving substantially, the O and the G, and people say, well, what does that mean? Because we don't give you any descriptives on the scale. Well, now we're going to tell you specifically what it means and the degree of that strengths movement. People would say, well, is that significant movement in the O? And we'd say, well, anything greater than 30 percentage points would be significant, or anything crossing the energy line like the G scale does. And it's far greater than 30 percentage points. But people had to do all these manual calculations. Well, now we've done it all for you. We literally take the L scale, or the problem solving scale, and if you can see, there's no movement. This person carries a 5 on the aggressive side of the scale, and what you see is what you get. When it comes to optimism, this person's on the optimistic side of the scale, so when it comes to processing information, they take an optimistic approach. But there's movement. What kind of movement? Movement in the negative direction. Well, what is moving that in the negative direction? Well, the only thing that can move it is the person feels they need to be more realistic. Now, they're not leaving all the optimism behind because they're still on the optimistic side of the scale. But they are moving in that direction, which would tell us their environment is communicating to them they need to be something different. They need to take a more realistic approach. Then when we come to that managing change scale, we see a huge swing. This person, when it comes to managing change, wants a predictable, slower environment where they can finish what they start. And this person is being communicated to very clearly. They got a 9 points, minus 9 points to the dynamic side of the scale. They are having to leave it all behind, and they need to be fast-paced starters and get it done. And then last but not least, the facing risk scale, a minus 3, not significant. So in the strengths movement chart, anything greater than 5 percentage points in a positive or negative direction should be an area in which is explored, especially if it crosses the energy line, still the 0 scale, okay, now called the 0 scale. The energy line, if it's crossing that, we can guarantee you it is probably significant. So that's it. It's that simple. I'm glad that you've joined me here today, and I hope this brings clarity into the new strength charts and the new strength movement charts, and the reason why this is a much stronger visual for us to teach the core concepts of leading from your strengths and empowering others to do the same.